Hi everyone, and welcome to the last AdEspresso webinar of the year. Thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate everybody taking their time just a week before Christmas. So as you can see on the screen there, today's subject is going to be how to master the Facebook pixel like a pro. So we're going to have an hour's live training going through everything you need to know about the pixel there. So just a bit of housekeeping before we get going. The most common question we get asked is, are we recording? Yes, we are. We'll be sending everybody an email within 24 hours of this live broadcast. Also, if you don't get any email for whatever reason, just go to adespresso.com/webinars and you'll be able to get the recording there. We've got all our previous webinars there. Also, if you've got any questions as we go along, you'll see in your GoToWebinar panel there that you can submit any questions, and I'll get to as many as possible at the end. Also, if you just want to check that out now, if you just want to let us know where you're joining from, if you can hear me correctly, if everything's okay. Already got a message from Jim from Las Vegas, Sally from New York, Rick from New Jersey. I'm not quite sure about your name, Nashiketa from India, Dallas. Got Kelly there. Wow, loads of people. This is really popular webinar. So thank you everybody for joining us today. So just before we get started, just a little background about myself there. My name's Paul. I'm the head of education here at AdEspresso. If you've got any questions after the webinar, just feel free to email me, paul@adespresso.com. I check and reply to every email. You can also tweet us at AdEspresso there. So my knowledge for being able to talk to you today about pixels on this webinar. I've audited campaigns from over 1,000 Facebook ad accounts, so I can see what's working and what's not all across the world in different industries. Personally manage for clients about $1 to $2 million of ad spend a year, and I coach businesses of all sizes. I love coaching small and medium businesses, but I also coach businesses, some with 1 billion revenue, even some with 10 billion revenue there. So I see what's working, what's not for businesses of all sizes there. So what we're going to be covering today, we're going to break it down into 9 sections. First of all, we're going to be looking at the benefits, why you should be using the pixel, then just very briefly what the pixel is, then how to create it, moving on to implementing it. Then we'll look at standard events and custom conversions. I'll explain what those are as we go along. Then just a little bit of technicalities to round things up with in the webinar. We'll be looking at how to debug your settings, just talk about privacy and GDPR, and then just any settings that you need to know for your pixel. So I'm going to give you as much strategy as possible during this live training. So let's start by having a look at the benefits of the pixel. I know this is really important for a lot of you. Maybe you're working as part of a team and you've got to convince your CEO that you really need to be having that pixel there, because a lot of people, just like management, just don't understand why it's so powerful. So let's look at 9 reasons that you can present to the team why we need to be using the pixel as soon as possible. So first one, and probably the most important one, is it allows us to track events on the website, i.e. conversions. Without the pixel, we can only look at secondary metrics, which is our click-through rate and our cost per click. They look at quantity, not quality of traffic. So with conversions, we can see what's happening. Now, conversion could be somebody filling in a form, i.e. a lead. It could be a purchase, it could be an add to cart, it could be anything that you want to define on the website there, but really looks at quality rather than just that quantity there. Second one is if you're doing anything to do with e-commerce, we can move on even from conversions and our CPA. This is our cost per conversion. We can actually move on to revenue. So we can then look at what we call our ROAS, which is return on ad spend, or ROI as it's also known, slightly different calculation, but the same sort of thing. So, very blunt, we've got dollars in and we've got dollars out. So you can get full accountability for your ads. Next one, number 3, is you can look at your funnel. E-commerce is probably a classic example, but it could be for other stages of the lead generation process on your website. Now, what we can see here is view content. This is how many people looked at an actual product page, and then we can see them going through to add to cart. So there's quite a big drop off there. Then from those 35, 10 of those initiated checkout and 9 purchased. So this allows you to look at your sales funnel, see any bits of the user journey that need improving. So when we kind of do conversion rate optimization, we focus on the pain points there in our funnel. Number 4, we can be looking at creating custom audiences for retargeting. So this allows you to, just build that advertising funnel where we can get people through to our website and we can be remarketing them there. 5 is that we can be excluding people from different stages of the funnel. So for example, if we've got purchasers, then we can build an audience of those and then we can stop running our cold traffic ads to them. A lot of people that, when you speak to people, your friends, and they say, oh, I hate Facebook advertising, it's because maybe they've taken an action like signed up for an ebook, and then you keep hammering them with ads for that ebook. By using the pixel, we can eliminate that. We can also create lookalike audiences. So this is for cold traffic prospecting. There's different lookalike sources that we can use, but basically if we use a good website audience such as leads or purchasers, we can feed that into Facebook, couple of clicks, and Facebook will create a very powerful audience for cold traffic targeting. There's other ways that we can target, but this is certainly going to be a very useful way. So simple once we've got that pixel in place. Reason number 7, hopefully I'm convincing you by now. Reason number 7 is we like to run a $1,000 experiment every month at AdEspresso. So we get the data and we see what's actually working rather than just talking about theory there. So what we found is that if you run an ad campaign for link clicks, i.e. traffic, rather than optimizing for conversions, the cost per conversion is 3.4 times higher. That's huge. That means, you could be getting the same results for $1,000 if you've got the pixel as you would spending $3,400 without the pixel. It's going to save you a ton of money by using the pixel. Number 8 is if you're doing e-commerce, you can run what we call DPA or dynamic product ads. This is where you target people with products they've just viewed. You can also do things like cross-selling and upselling, but these are the ads that you'll see if ever you've been doing a shopping over Black Friday. Final reason, it's totally free. There's not really any downsides. You're not having to pay for it. So hopefully that's going to convince you that we really want to be using that pixel. I'll be quite blunt, it's the difference between success and failure with your Facebook and Instagram ads for most businesses. So let's now move on from the benefits of the pixel to consider what the pixel actually is. So let's go and reveal the pixel. So at this stage, don't be scared. This is a pixel. It looks like a load of code, but don't worry. We don't need to be coders. I'm not a coder myself, but I just wanted to give you a peek into what the pixel actually looks like. Now, what does this mean in human language? Well, Facebook define it as a snippet of JavaScript code. And what that JavaScript does is it loads a small library of functions that allows you to track both ad-driven activity, but also anything organic as well. The purchase pixel or the lead pixel can be fired even if they come through to your website from other sources. And so what it does is it loads up a little cookie, and this allows you to track website visitors to their Facebook user account there. So like I said, don't get tied up about the code. It's just a little thing that sits there in the header of every page on the website, allows us to go and track user activity. So once you understand what the pixel is, we need to, of course, to go ahead and create the pixel. And there's 2 main ways that we can be doing this. So if you go into your ads manager here and you get this hamburger icon in the top left, if you go and click on that, you'll see events manager and pixels. Now I will say this screen does differ slightly depending if you've got old version of ads manager or new version, but basically you'll see something called either events manager or pixels. It'll be pretty obvious and you can go and click on that one there. Now if you don't already have a pixel installed, what you'll get is a screen like this, and you'll see this big green button says create a pixel. Very straightforward. Click on that. It will take you through the steps, which we'll cover in a second, to create the pixel. The other way that you can do it, which is kind of slightly more modern way, is if you're using Business Manager, you can go into your Business Manager settings. This is available from that hamburger icon menu that we saw. Or what you'll find is that from Ads Manager, there's like in the top right-hand corner, little gear cog icon. Click on that, you go into your settings. And what you'll see then is from this left-hand corner is that there's your different assets in Business Manager, including data sources, and one is a pixel. So you click on that option there and you click on add, and then you can add a pixel. It's as simple as that. If you need more information on Business Manager, we've got a full webinar on that. Again, go to adespresso.com/webinars and you can register for that webinar. There's a replay there, all totally free. So once you go and click on create, very simple, you give your pixel a name. Try and change it from what's the default, which is just default pixel. Give it a sensible name. As you start working with more ad accounts, then you get more pixels, and so you need to go and create sensible names. By the way, in Business Manager, you can now create up to 100 pixels. So you can get as granular as you want, that you generally have one pixel per website or ad account. We could talk about it all day, the different word structures for that. But basically, if you need more pixels, then they're free to create and you can create them there. So just give your pixel a sensible name, put in the URL, that's not too essential, and away you go, basically. Now, if you are doing this from the creation from Business Manager, just let you know about a last bit that you need to do, which is basically tie your pixel to an ad account. Otherwise, you just get these separate assets kind of floating around in your Business Manager. So again, you just go to that data sources, pixels, click on the pixel, and then what you can do on there, you can tie it. So you can then tie it to an ad account, or you can assign it to a partner, you can assign it to a person, saying just watch our Business Manager webinar if you need more details. But it's pretty straightforward if you click on pixels. Otherwise, what will happen is it just won't be tied to any particular ad account there. So a couple of little tips to consider here is each pixel has a unique ID. This is how that Facebook knows it's not your pixel and not somebody else's pixel. So you'll see a 15-digit ID with there. So that's something just to note. And I urge you to set up the pixel now. I know it's before Christmas and you're probably not thinking about your long-term advertising goals, but the advantage with the pixel is it can collect data for retargeting and to build audiences for up to 180 days. So even if you don't use it now, this could be helping you, up to May with your advertising. So certainly it's going to help you with your New Year goals. So get that pixel on now. Those creation steps, they can be done in less than 5 minutes. So let's get that on let's go and set that up as soon as absolutely possible. So once we've got the pixel, of course, we've created that code, we've got that 15-digit ID, where we need to actually go and implement that on the websites. So what you'll see then in that Events Manager page is that there's 3 ways that we can then actually go and roll that pixel out to our website. We'll say you can either use an integration or tag manager, or we can manually install the code, or you can email the instructions to a developer. So let's go and just briefly look at the 3 options there. We'll start with this first one of using an integration or tag manager. So if you click on that, then Facebook's going to give you this screen here. And so what that's going to do is that's going to just cover some of the main websites here, like we can see like Eventbrite, we can see Shopify, we can see Wix. So chances are these days is you're not going to be messing about manually installing. Most things you can cover there. I'm going to give you an example, Shopify. Shopify work very closely with Facebook. So in your admin panel in Shopify, you go to online store, you've got preferences, you put in your pixel ID, which we've just created, and away you go. It's going to set up all your pixel events like add to cart, initiate checkout, purchase. It's going to populate it across your website. So what that means is that we could go from no pixel to creating it and having it populated across our Shopify site in under 5 minutes if you're in a hurry. That's how simple it is. I've seen advertisers that have taken 6 months to go and implement their pixel, but really you can move a lot faster. 5 minutes you can get this done. Another example for you, if you're using WordPress and or WooCommerce, we've got a free solution for you. We've got a free plugin for WordPress. It's called Pixel Caffeine. So just go and Google that and you'll find the page to download Pixel Caffeine. It's totally free. It's always free. You don't need to be an AdEspresso customer. That's just our little gift to you there. So what can you do with Pixel Caffeine? It's instant installation across your WordPress site. You put in your pixel ID, you connect up your Facebook account, and away you go, all done for you. We've got some advanced custom audiences that you can create in there. It's a very neat way of creating those audiences for remarketing. Integrates with WooCommerce, and in fact, it goes a bit further with WooCommerce that you can actually go and integrate your product catalog, which means that you can run those DPA or dynamic product ads there. Let's have a little peek of that there. So what happens, this is your admin panel in WordPress. So once you download it, you can then install it. And then you've got some data options there, like you can easily go and design your product catalog. I installed this myself a few days ago on a new website, just very fast to download it. So you kind of like a couple of clicks, integrate your Facebook account, and then find your pixel, and away you go. Super simple. You'll see there as well, this is just like another screenshot of like you can create your product feed for remarketing there. So that's the first option that Facebook gives us. Let's have a look at the second option here. Let's just go back 1 second. Yep, so that second option of manually adding it to your website. If you click on that, Facebook's going to give you that code that we looked at earlier, and you can just copy and paste that into the header of every website. I will say that it's quite rare to do that these days. Most content management systems for websites like we saw, Shopify, WordPress, and so on, have an automatic way of doing this. I was working with a client, they had no Facebook knowledge, but they had a Wix website. We managed to just like find it in the admin panel in Wix, cut and paste that 15-digit ID, and away we went. But there is an option if you've got a small website or you really like getting your hands dirty with code, you can just copy and paste that into the head of every website. It's not that difficult. Third way, of course, if you're working with a developer or maybe you've got a large marketing team in your company, you can just click on email instructions to the developer and let your developer take care of it for you. If you do click on that, what it will do is it will give the developer the pixel ID, it will give them the code that they need to know, and you can just click on that and email that to the developer and let them take care of it there. So that's gone through the benefits of the pixel, how to create it, how to install it. So once we've done that, we then need to start using this pixel. And what we've got to remember is that just having the pixel sitting there on every page on the website, it's good because we can create audiences, but really what we want to do is start tracking interactions on that website. We call them events there. So that's really what we want to set up next. And there's two ways that we can do this. There's one called standard events, and the other is custom conversions. So we're going to talk about both of those in the next section of this webinar. So let's cover standard events first. Facebook define a standard event as an action that happens on your website, either from paid Facebook ads or just from organic unpaid reach. Standard events allow you to then track those specific events and then to optimize for them. So that could be leads or purchases and so on, and also to build audiences like we saw in the benefits section. So that's why what we need to understand is that Facebook on its own doesn't understand what people are doing on the website. You know, it doesn't understand that if somebody fills in their name and their email address and clicks submit, that's a lead. So we need to tell Facebook via the standard event, hey, count this as a lead. This is what I'm really interested in optimizing for. So I'll give you an example of what we would do. We're not going to look at code yet. We'll look at that a little bit later. What we do here is this is an example of a landing page that we've got on the AdEspresso site. People can download this ebook and they fill in their name, first name, last name, and hit submit. So what happens is we need to tell Facebook that this is a lead. So what we do in this case is we take people through to this thank you page. And then what we do on that thank you page is we know this is a lead. They can only reach this page if they've signed up. So what we do is we then fire that lead pixel. And this is just an example. We'll cover this pixel helper in a second, but just shows that we fire that lead pixel there and we can track the number of leads, and then we can then optimize our Facebook ads when we drive traffic to that ebook to optimize for leads there. I'm going to give you another example of where we use standard events in e-commerce. So what happens is somebody goes onto our landing page. This has just got all our products there. We just fire the standard page view event. So this isn't like a significant event. This is Facebook just capturing that audience. Now, if somebody looks at this product and they go, hey, I really like this beanie hat. So they click through, find out more information about this. We then fire the view content pixel. So this is where we can then find out people that have actually gone through to a product. So we kind of see who's actually interacting with our product pages on our website. Remember that most shopping carts like WooCommerce and Shopify, we can set this up automatically. Now, if somebody really likes this and they click on add to cart, what we then do is we configure it so that Facebook fires the add to cart pixel. and then we can go and retarget those people with our dynamic product ads, or we could go and retarget them with a coupon code because it's a super hot audience, or we could be excluding those people from our audience of just general website visitors. Loads of options there. Of course, once they've added to cart, they then go through to the checkout page there. So they go through to initiate checkout, and we can go and fire the initiate checkout pixel. And I think you can guess what's next. We then fire the purchase pixel once somebody has gone through all of the shopping cart there. Now, Facebook have probably about a year ago increased the number of standard events available. So we've actually got 17 to choose from. Things like leads you'll be using a lot, purchase. Maybe if you want to get somebody to sign up for an account, they can fire complete registration. Donate if you're a charity there. Search is quite useful to see if people are searching for products, and so on. You can sometimes mix and match a bit, like sometimes I use lead or complete registration, but really there's 17 options that you can be using there. So lots of possibilities to track exactly what people are doing on your website there. So let's have a quick peek at the code. How do you add that standard event? Well, you've got your base pixel. This is what we looked at before, but there's just an extra line of code. So we say to Facebook, hey, this is an add to cart there. Remember that most of the time you don't have to be doing this manually. You don't have to be adding that extra code, although you can do if you want. I have done that in the past, but generally a lot of your content management systems on your websites are going to be able to go and configure these events automatically there. It gets better than that as well, as well as that extra standard event that you put in there. You can go and pass the value and the currency back. Generally, you're going to be using this for the purchase pixel. Also, maybe you want to see initiate checkouts, add to carts, and view content. You could pass that back there. But sometimes maybe you've got a certain value for a lead. You could assign a value to that lead there. A little couple of tips here if you're adding these to your websites or if you're doing some debugging is that those standard event codes are case sensitive. So add to wish list with the capitalization for each word is going to be different to having it in lowercase there. So just make sure that you use those capitals. Now that's covered standard events, which we're using, that as Facebook says, they are the standard events that we're going to be using. Certainly going to be using a lot, as we saw for e-commerce, where you go from view content to add to cart to initiate checkout to purchase. But there's also times when we can tell Facebook that an event is special in another way, and that's called custom conversions. So where do we use custom conversions? Generally, they're your kind of backup if for some reason you can't use standard events on your website. Now we've got to be thinking, when is that? So I'm going to give you some ideas when we might be using them instead of standard events. Sometimes you just don't have access to the website source code. Maybe it's locked down, your team isn't allowed to go and mess about with the source code and add those standard events. So custom conversions, they can be added to your website without changing any of the site code because they're done through Facebook Ads Manager instead there. Also, there might be times where you need to track a specific page. For example, maybe you've got several different funnels running, and so you've got several different thank you pages for several different ebooks, and they all fire that lead pixel. Whereas maybe you need to get more granular and just track visits to one particular thank you page. So rather than having that standard event lead firing across multiple pages, you can create a custom conversion for a specific page there. So that can be quite useful. Couple of disadvantages, quite minor though. The first is you can only create 100 of them. Not usually a problem because you can delete old ones, but just something to bear in mind is that you can't go crazy and create thousands of events there. Also, you can't do dynamic product ads there. Basically, if you're running e-commerce, you want to be using standard events. If you're not using e-commerce, if that's not your business model, then you could be using standard events or custom conversions there. So next, let's have a quick look at how we can set up those custom conversions. So what we do, again, we go to that hamburger icon from Business Manager or Ads Manager, and you'll see somewhere an option for custom conversions. So what we do is we click on that one, and then what there will be is there's a little button where you can then set up your custom conversions, and then you just go through the steps. Is that we can say URL traffic. we put in a keyword, like maybe you're taking people to a thank you page, and so you've got a keyword of like thank you, or maybe you've got a bit more granular. It's very good to have a good naming convention for your pages there. Give that custom conversion a sensible name, just like with a pixel name. Make sure it's something that's going to make sense when you've got like 100 of those set up there. So don't just say, hey, this is a lead. Give it a bit more detail there. You can select a category to map it to a standard event. You can give it a value if there's a set value for it there. So your custom conversions, these can be set up within 60 seconds. So it's very, very quick to go and track certain thank you pages on your website there. So don't be put off from setting up these custom conversions. Anybody can do them. Very, very simple there. Just one little thing to remember. I know this is going to sound obvious, but I get asked it in coaching questions a lot. If you are using those custom conversions, you still need that base pixel to be placed on every page on the website. So it means that we do have to go and implement it through our content management system, or get your developer to put that base pixel code in place, that little snippet of JavaScript. But once it's in place, then we don't need to be messing about with the code after that there. So we've got to the stage where we've gone and created our pixel. We've then put it on every page on the website, and then we've created some events, either the standard events or the custom conversions. Now, what we need to be doing is some checks at this stage to make sure everything's working properly. And this is where it's worth going through some of the tools that we can check and debug our pixel setup there. The first of these is Facebook Pixel Helper. Now, this is a free extension. It just works with the Chrome web browser. So you can download this from the Chrome web store. So I recommend that everybody has this. It's a really essential tool. You know, if ever there's a problem with a pixel, this is what I'm going to be turning to first. So it's a little extension, it just sits there in your browser bar. And this will work on any website. It doesn't have to be your own, but obviously that's going to be where you get the most benefit from it. And what it does is it tells you that pixel ID, and it will tell you about any events that you've got firing there. If you've got a problem, so you can click on troubleshoot, we can look at any analytics for that pixel file there. One little tip with this is it will get blocked by ad blockers. So, you know, if you use an ad blocker, make sure that you just deactivate that first. Otherwise, it'll just tell you that your pixel isn't active. So turn off that ad blocker, use Facebook Pixel Helper. So what sort of things can we be checking with Pixel Helper? First of all, just tell you whether there's actually a pixel on the website. If there is it a valid pixel ID? Did that pixel load, or is it corrupted? Did it take too long to load? It could be sometimes your website is just firing the pixel last and it's really, really slow to load, so it's not firing for all visitors. Sometimes it's firing multiple times there. And you know, your developers copied the code twice onto the website or put it in the header and the footer. Did it fire a standard event? So, you know, have you got that lead? Have you got that add to cart firing? If it did fire it multiple times? You know, a lot of times I see problems with misreporting where maybe Facebook's saying you've got double the number of purchases you actually have. It's because that pixel is firing twice. So you can check that there. Also, if you're using dynamic product ads, you can be checking whether your pixel event is actually paired to the product catalog there. It's going to give you all the warnings so that you can then use that. A little tip for you is, even if you don't get involved with that side code and you've given your code to the developer and they've gone ahead and done everything, I really recommend, you know, if you're a social media manager or you're a growth marketer, to have that pixel helper to hand and check the website. The number of times I've heard a developer say to me, yeah, I've gone and installed the pixel code, and they actually haven't. They've just been lazy and just fobbed me off. So just make sure that you always go and check once a developer said to you, yeah, they've gone and put it on the website there. So we can also be doing some checks from the business manager side of things. So how we do these checks is we again go to that top left hand menu, and what we can be doing from there is again clicking on pixels, and what we can be seeing there is we're going to get loads and loads of information from Facebook that's going to help us. The first thing that we'll see is a screen showing us our main events there. So this, like in this case, we can see how many pages have been viewed, that blue one. This advanced events, not going to be that useful, but I could be configuring that to something else like add to cart, view content, whatever. I can be following all my standard events and custom conversions on my website there. So if I think, right, haven't got any, I'm just not seeing many purchases for my ads. And you're going to be thinking, well, is it just that people aren't purchasing, or is my purchase pixel not firing properly? First thing I would do is go to this page and see how many pixel fires I'm getting. Remember that within Business Manager, this is looking at organic and paid traffic, not just from your Facebook ads there. The next thing that we'll see is if we kind of scroll down in your Business Manager portal below that pixel graph, you can then look at all the different events. And then we can actually click on View Details and we can see more details about these. So we click on one. What's then going to do is it's going to give us the last 100 pixel fires. So if I've got a problem, I'm thinking, where is this pixel firing? I could be looking at that referring URL. That's really going to help us to work out what's going on there. So yeah, there's loads of checks. Just have a play in Business Manager and you can see what's going on there. Next thing that you can do within that pixel portal is you can go to test events. So what that allows you to do is when you go there, it allows you to go and actually test. So what you do is you put in the URL of your website. It's going to take you to the website. You can then play around with that. For example, you could go to view content, view that product. You could then add it to cart, initiate checkout, maybe sign up as for a lead. And in real time, you can switch between your website and your pixel portal in Business Manager, and it will tell you exactly what's firing. So maybe you've set up a thank you page, you've put the lead pixel on there and you're thinking, is this working? First thing I would use is that Facebook Pixel Helper Chrome extension, and then I'd go into test events and I can be playing around on my website there. This is something Facebook implemented at the end of last year. Really, really powerful to be debugging your website. Another thing they can be doing is this just diagnostics. If you click on that and there's any problems, Facebook's going to give you some detailed information that will hopefully help you to go and debug any problems on your websites. So yes, sometimes you put the pixel on the website and there are some issues, but certainly all these tools are going to help us, both from your Chrome browser with Pixel Helper and also from test events, overview and diagnostics there. Now, we can't really run a webinar on pixels without talking about privacy. What I find is in my coaching calls, when clients are setting up their pixels, half the time I'm talking about how to create and implement the pixel, but the other half the time I'm talking about privacy and I'm consulting with their legal teams on this. Certainly, I know since Cambridge Analytica last year, a lot of people are thinking, okay, before I start putting all this across my website, what do I need to be thinking about with privacy issues? So I'm going to give you some resources to start you off here. First of all, you could go to Facebook's guide on GDPR. I know that not all regions are, covered by GDPR, but what you'll find is that if your website gets visitors from Europe, then even if you're outside of Europe, you need to be thinking about being GDPR compliant. Also, it's just that if you're GDPR compliant, which is quite strict, it's very modern, set of privacy laws designed for the digital age, then you're probably going to be fine in most regions, whatever kind of privacy laws get implemented there. So have a look at that. If you need more technical information, then there is a developer resource. You go to developersfacebook.com and they've got some privacy documentation. Generally, I just put this kind of stuff in my Chrome browser, into Google, and you can find these links to these documentation. Also, Andrea Weil, she actually ran a webinar for us last year. She's written a nice kind of very easy to understand guide on GDPR. It is a year old now, so a little bit dated, but if you just go and put into Google Andrea Weil GDPR, you'll find that blog post that gives you a good overview there. So I need to give a little disclaimer. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you legal advice. I always recommend that you go and consult your legal team or a lawyer first, especially as laws will vary by country. But like I said, if you're looking at kind of GDPR implementation, it's probably gonna stand you in good stead, whatever country you're in. But I know Canada's got certain privacy laws. I think California is rolling some out. And so, yeah, always go and take a bit of research before you implement your pixel. But I'll give you a very, very brief kind of overview. Generally, most websites are privacy compliant by having a cookie banner, a little pop-up when people first visit their website. What this cookie banner does is it alerts people to the fact that they're going to be collecting certain information about them. And it should link to an up-to-date privacy policy explaining to people what data you're collecting and how you're going to be using that in advertising. Now, as we know, most people aren't going to be clicking on that, but it gives them that heads up. It gives them that option, and then you can be compliant there. You also need to decide what control that user has. Can they opt out of tracking? There are some scripts where if people decline the tracking from that cookie banner, that it can shut down the pixel. Other times that people can't go beyond that cookie banner unless they opt in. So we kind of get into the more sort of, where we need to take legal advice, but that's certainly something that we want to be thinking about before we implement that pixel there. So let's move on from kind of like nerdy GDPR implementation, and we're going to talk about some advanced settings. This is where we can get the most out of the pixel by digging into Business Manager. So what we do there is if we go back to that pixel portal again and go to settings, there's a couple of checks that you want to do. The first is that you want to see that first party cookies are turned on. If they're not turned on, then you'll find that some browsers and some ad blockers will block your tracking. So that's going to be turned on. I think it's by default, but something that you want to have. Facebook only give you that option. There's certain regulated industries where it might be turned off, very rare, but you can turn it off in a very rare case that you need to there. Next thing is this advanced matching. As far as I know, I think this is turned off by default, but you certainly want to be having it on. So make a little action point there to go and check this and turn on advanced matching. And we've got an email, I think it's from Kevin just before this, before I started this webinar, saying what information does Facebook pass back, from your website through that pixel to Facebook? Well, it really depends on what you turn on with advanced matching. You can turn on email address, gender, location. Of course, the people need to fill in this data on your website there. So for example, somebody signing up as a lead, it could then pass back the email address. If it's a shopping cart, then it's going to collect this extra information. Little tip from Facebook, they recommend turning on advanced matching and choosing at least email addresses and phone numbers. You then get a much better match rate for when you create custom audiences. I found in the past it's generally about an 8 to 10% higher match rate. So you've just got that bigger audience that you can retarget there. After you've looked at advanced matching, there's a little section underneath that on traffic permissions. What this does is if you have a look, it will tell you what websites your pixel is on there. Now, you don't need to be checking this every day, but this is maybe, like you do a 6-month or a yearly audit. Just in that rare case that somebody's taken your pixel code and put it on a different website. Could be done maliciously. Generally, I don't see that. What I see is the fact that, a lot of advertisers, you've got your ad account that you've used for 3 years, 5 years or something like that. You've had different agencies working on your account. And what could have happened is maybe that you've worked with an agency in the past and you generate lots of sales. And what they've done is they've then taken that pixel code and used it on other websites, either intentionally or unintentionally. Things just get messy with advertising over time when you've got so many pixels, ad accounts, pages. So it's something that I check every so often. This is a real example from AdEspresso that we found our AdEspresso pixel, as well as being on our AdEspresso domains, was on this blog page there. So what we could then do is just go and set it to go and block those pages there. So congratulations, you've mastered the pixel basics there. Now, bear in mind that when I was writing this webinar, it started off as like a 2-hour training, and then I've had to cut some down on there. So if you've got any questions about this, I'm going to answer them in chat in a second. I can see quite a few, which I'll be going through, but also you can reach out to me by email, paul@adespresso.com. I'll also be covering that coaching that we offer in a minute, but hopefully that gives you an idea is that really, if we boil it down to the basics, we can create and implement the pixel very simply on our website. Look at those advanced settings, look at the debugging, think about the privacy policies, and away we go. Now, once we've got that pixel in place, how do we use that for advanced custom audiences? Well, we do have a free ebook that I wrote on this. You can go to adespresso.com, ebooks, completely free to go and download that Facebook custom audiences guide. We've also got a full webinar on there. If you like, the interactive learning sessions like this, go to adespresso.com/webinars, and we go and cover that for you there. Also, I'd like to thank you for joining this webinar by giving you a little special offer here just for webinar visitors. If you go to adespresso.com/AE-webinar, you can get a free 14-day trial of AdEspresso and also 30% off an AdEspresso subscription. Also, if you like I was saying, we could spend a couple of hours talking about this, and I would love to do that on one-to-one coaching sessions. So we don't just offer AdEspresso as a tool for your Facebook, Instagram, and Google advertising. We also like to give you some more involved help there. So we can do campaign reviews. We could be doing one-to-one power hours for coaching sessions. And we even have a concierge service where we can run your ads for you. If you're interested in that, again, reach out to me, paul@adespresso.com, or we do have a page here about our marketing services. I'd also like to invite you to our next webinar in January. This is going to be how to get started with Facebook and Instagram advertising in 2020. Maybe if you've been watching that webinar, this webinar, you've probably got an idea about advertising already, but please pass on this link to anybody that you know, any colleagues or any business associates that want to get started with Facebook and Instagram advertising in 2020. This is going to be like a Facebook ads 101 there. So again, just go to adespresso.com/webinars to go and register for that there. So thank you for joining me, and we're going to spend some time now looking at some questions. So if you just give me a second, we're going to be looking at the questions now. Okay, so I've got a question here from Egi asking about what happens if you've got two different websites. Should you be using different pixels, or should you be using the same one? And how about creating audiences here? So there's two ways they can solve this. You could have one pixel on both websites, and then if you wanted to go and separate out the custom audiences, when you go and create them within Facebook Ads Manager, you can go and specify a URL. So you can then go and separate those out by keyword in the URL, or you can be putting different pixels on different websites. The way that I look at it is if you've got like two websites selling the same product or very, very similar for lead generation, I might have one pixel, and then I can create one big audience aggregating all the visitors across them, and I can be using that optimization data across the two websites. However, if I've got two websites with very different goals, maybe one selling cell phone chargers and another one is selling, you know, it could be selling like coffee mugs, then I would be using completely different pixels. Otherwise, Facebook could get confused with the optimization there. So yeah, it just really depends how similar the websites are, whether you use 2 pixels or whether you're going to be using 1 pixel there. You can always start off with 1 and you could be adding another pixel. You can have more than 1 pixel on a website. Sometimes I've seen 3 or 4 different pixels, different agencies for that same website are using different pixels there. I've just got somebody asking here, Roberto asking if there's going to be a replay. Yes, there is. So we're going to send this out by email within 24 hours. Also, you know, sometimes emails don't arrive. You can go to adespresso.com/webinars, and there's going to be all our replays there. That then links to our YouTube channel. So if you search for AdEspresso channel on YouTube, you can see all the replays there. Just having a look here. So we got a question by, I think, Stephen or Steven, asking about a new ad account for each business. You can run multiple businesses through one ad account, but generally if they're going to be very distinctive, it's probably going to be easier from an admin point of view to separate them out. Also from optimization and just the custom audiences, you usually separate them out if they're different businesses there. Also, if you're running ads, say you're like an agency or freelancer and you're running ads for different clients, what I would normally recommend is you get each client to set up their own ad account and pixel, and then they give you access to those through Business Manager. If you have multiple clients using the same ad account and pixel, there's 2 problems there. First, with optimization and creating custom audiences, it's going to get very messy trying to create those across multiple websites. Also, there's a risk that, you know, I've seen agencies run 100 different clients through one ad account. If that ad account gets banned for any reason, then that's going to be 100 clients picking up the phone and screaming down the phone at you what's happened to their ads. So that's why it's good to separate out different businesses, different clients there for different ad accounts. Steve saying Pixel Caffeine is awesome. Thank you, Steve. So yes, got Jim here as well. Asking about Pixel Caffeine. Is it a plugin? Yes, it's a plugin for WordPress. So you go just Google that. You'll find like the WordPress page to download the plugin. Saying it only takes about a minute to go and then integrate it into your WordPress admin panel. So it's very quick. I've had calls with clients that don't have a pixel, and I've taught them how to create that pixel, how to then install the WordPress plugin, how to connect that to your Facebook account, and then select your pixel and populate the pixel across the website. You know, I've done that in like 20 minutes on a call. Very simple to get moving with your pixel set up on your WordPress and WooCommerce sites there. Okay, I've got a question from Amy. Can you click on a Amazon link and measure that as a conversion? So this is something that's worth considering, is that there are certain websites where you can't place your pixel, and one of them is Amazon, which can be painful because, you know, about 60% of US households have Amazon Prime, and there's a chance that you'll be selling some of your products there. So how do we get around this? Well, what I'd normally recommend is drive traffic through to my website, and then maybe I can redirect them to Amazon after that. So I can pixel website visitors, and at least build custom audiences that I can be using for retargeting there. Another website that's very painful is Kickstarter. You know, my clients do a lot of product launches on Kickstarter. We want to be driving traffic there, but we don't know what's happening to that traffic once it arrives. So how do we get around that? Well, again, we probably want to be having a redirect on our page, maybe taking them through to a landing page, and then we can then redirect them from there. There are automatic redirects as well that you can be using. Just one thing to bear in mind with any automatic redirects is technically they're going to be against GDPR, that we shouldn't be pixeling people unless we have that cookie banner there. Now, I will say, you know, a lot of people that run Kickstarter ads do have that automatic redirect. It takes them, you know, just takes them to the website for a second, fires that pixel, takes them then through to Kickstarter. You know, it's up to you on that legal interpretation there, but generally you shouldn't really be firing that pixel unless they've got that notification, certainly if you're anywhere in Europe there. Okay, let's have a look at Janet. Janet's asking for a recap on this. Sorry if you got a bit lost there, Janet. I know there's a lot to take in. So first of all, there's going to be a replay on this. Also, if you go to the blog section of AdEspresso.com, we did release a blog earlier in our week that's linking to that's going to give you a written guide on this. Also, if you need some one-on-one help, we're more than happy to do that. Like I said, you can book a one-to-one coaching call. We'd be happy to do that. So Paul at AdEspresso.com with any questions. But I think the thing to do is look at this replay, also look at the blog on the AdEspresso blogs page, and then just go and have a play. That you can't really go too far wrong. There's certainly not going to be any expense involved. It's going to your business manager, click on the pixel page. If you haven't created a pixel, it's going to give you a big green button to create the pixel. Once you created that pixel ID, like we went through, a lot of websites are going to guide you through it. Facebook's going to give you a step-by-step guide once you choose your website content management system anyway. I got a question here from Amy asking whether you need to check that every page on your website has got the pixel installed on it. I mean, generally, it depends on your content management system. A lot of them are going to populate every page, like Shopify will, Wix will, the Pixel Caffeine extension will, but it's still worth checking. That's why I use that Facebook Pixel Helper, and just check that everything's working for you there. If you are doing it manually, then yes, you do need to go to every page. Otherwise, if you don't have it on every page, then you're not going to be able to retarget all website visitors. You'd only be able to retarget people that visited pages with a pixel on there. Ramdani got a comment here. Thank you for the webinar. Thank you. I really appreciate that. We spend a lot of time putting our webinars together and try and pack them full of information. So we appreciate that there. Okay, so just got another question here from Amy. I really like the interaction here. More questions, the better. So Amy's asking if the pixel tracks organic people. Okay, so Amy's asking about tracking ROI and like different traffic sources here. So what you'll find is that if you go into Ads Manager and you're running an ad campaign, then you're tracking there for the number of leads, sales, and revenue that's only going to consider people that reserved your ads. So what you'll find is that Facebook will underreport. Like if somebody is served a paid ad, and then maybe they tag their friend then looks at that post and they go and then purchase your product or sign up for a lead, Ads Manager won't count that. Your Pixel portal and Business Manager will, and there's a portal called Facebook Analytics where you can look at that. But yes, you'll find that your actual ad campaigns, they usually underreport. And I get this all the time with my clients, that sometimes they think the ads aren't generating that many conversions, but because we're getting loads of tags and lots of shares on the ads, all that organic traffic can sometimes add up to quite a bit more. Sometimes it really depends what the offer is, but sometimes, 50% underreporting is quite common from some ads there. So Sosa's asking, how do I set up the pixel on the website? Like I said, once you create the pixel, click on the automatic setup, and Facebook's going to give you a list of different website content management systems, and there's some options there. Otherwise, you can add it manually or give it to your developer there. Constantina asking about replay. Like I said, just go on to adespresso.com/webinars and we'll give you a replay there. Okay, so Jim's asking, how do we enable Facebook pixels within AdEspresso? So what you'll see is that within AdEspresso is when you create a campaign, on step 2 of campaign creation at the bottom, there's a little menu there where you can enable pixel tracking and choose the pixel event that you want to follow there. And then on step 4, you can then go and choose what to optimize for. If you've got any more questions about that, Jim, reach out to our support team via the help button in AdEspresso. You can also look at our free guides. If you go to AdEspresso University, there's a university tab within AdEspresso. Then you can, there's a brief video course by my colleague Tori there on how to use those. Okay, so we've got a question from Angelica talking about taking the Facebook Blueprint exam. Is there questions about pixels there? I actually took my Blueprint exam about 6 months ago, and they changed the course since then, but I think there's now something like 100, 150 questions. So they do ask about pixels there, really about optimizing for conversions. So I can't remember the exact questions, but yes, you do need to know things like what CPA stands for, what revenue is, and some of those different pixel events. Nothing there really too technical, but Facebook will check that you know the difference between just driving traffic through to the website and being able to track conversions. If you do the Blueprint courses, there's all those modules that you can take before doing the exam. There's nothing there that's going to catch you out there. So quick message from Timotopy, I hope I'm pronouncing his names right, saying thank you. Again, we appreciate you there. Any more feedback, you can always go and email me there. So I got a Terry asking the difference between a standard event and a custom conversion on a thank you page. What's the difference? To be honest, there's not much difference in that case. There are two ways of tracking the same event there. So it really just depends what's going to be easiest. Can you go and put that standard event on your website, either through your content management system or adding that line of code, or do you want to create that custom conversion there? The only time when you really need to run these standard events is for dynamic product ads. You also find for e-commerce, it's good if you are tracking purchases to use the standard event, because then Facebook can use all that data it's got on users from when they've purchased other things to drive good quality traffic through to your website there. Got a question on Barak here. Can we use the pixel across multiple websites? So yes, we can. So it really depends how different your products are on those websites, whether you have one pixel across all websites or whether you go and split those out there. Laura, hi Laura. No, we've had some calls before. Laura's asking, is it possible to create an audience based on referring URL? So yes, you can do this with Google Analytics. So if there's a UTM codes in your ads, which you can configure either in Ads Manager as one click to add UTM codes in AdEspresso, then you can create a custom audience and you can then put like a keyword from that particular UTM code. So hopefully that helps, Laura. Any more questions, just drop me a message in the AdEspresso University Facebook group and I'll be happy to help there. Got Kelly asking about the discount for current subscribers for that 30% off. Kelly, you need to check with that code but I think it's just for new users. But I tend to focus more on the strategy than the sales side of things there. But check about any questions. Just use that help button within AdEspresso, and you can raise a ticket to get through to our customer service team there. Okay, so I've got a question from Rochelle there. How do you match the content ID of a product catalog to the pixel there? So yeah, for people that aren't familiar with dynamic product ads, what you can then do is, well, what happens is when you set those events up on your website, Facebook then passes back the product ID and can then match that up to your product catalog. That's how you manage to show the right products to the right people there. So Rochelle, the way they're doing that is basically you wouldn't be coding that manually. Is that this is going to be taken care of by your cart management system. So Shopify will do this. Like we saw, you just go to your admin panel in Shopify, or we can do this with Pixel Caffeine for WooCommerce. You basically put in your Pixel ID and Facebook will take care of that. So if somebody visits a certain product, Facebook will fire back that product ID through the Pixel. That goes then to Facebook, and then Facebook can then match up that product ID with the catalog and do it in the ads. So basically, Facebook's going to do that automatically if we're using Shopify, WooCommerce, or I've seen it with like Magento, things like that. But these days, it's all going to be taken care of automatically. Julian saying, created a pixel by mistake and can't delete it. I'm not actually sure whether you can delete the pixel. You probably can't, but you should just be able to go and create a second pixel. Like we saw, you can create 100 of those. So no problem. It's not going to cost you anything to have the old one there. Just make sure you delete it from the website if you're not using it there. Okay, got another question here from Kazima saying if somebody clicks through to your website and then abandons and then buys, will the pixel miss the purchase? No, this is a nice thing with Facebook is that the attribution by default, Facebook will count somebody within 28 days of visiting your website. It will track all the interactions there. So yes, in this case, if somebody goes through to your website, abandons, maybe they see an email with a coupon code, goes back to the website a week later and purchases, that still gets attributed to the Facebook campaign. Better still, it can work across devices. Now, the user needs to be logged into Facebook on both devices, but maybe somebody sees an ad on their mobile when they're traveling to work, and they click on it, go through to your website, they then get to work, and they then go into their desktop browser, and they then go and purchase. That's still counted as a conversion. So, you know, Facebook attribution can get a bit messy sometimes, but generally, Facebook will count that as a conversion there. So we've got time there. So many questions. I've got hundreds of questions. Just a couple more that I'll try and get through to here. Let's have a look. So Orakli rather, sorry about the pronunciation, asking whether you can use the Pixel on mobile apps. No, you can't, but there's something else called the Facebook SDK. So this is probably a full webinar, but just go and Google for Facebook SDK for mobile apps. And basically what the SDK or software developer kit does is it allows you to count conversions in your app. You know, people that are doing certain events in your app. It's basically the same as the Pixel, but it's going to be using this SDK, and you can build audiences off there. You can then run app engagement campaigns. You can then retarget these people, all sorts of things. So yes, the SDK does what the Pixel does there. Just going to have a look at one more question here. So Jim's, I think this is Jim asking, yeah, does Pixel Caffeine work on WordPress sites even without WooCommerce? Yes, it does. I've created a website, doesn't have with WordPress, doesn't have WooCommerce. That's absolutely fine. That's still going to work there. In fact, we're just going to be looking for one more question here. Let's have a look. So yeah, I've just got some people asking about replays there. So yeah, replays, just go to adespresso.com/webinars, and we're going to put that there within 24 hours. And just, yeah, I've got Haley, quite an open-ended question, but a good one to end on, asking what's a strong conversion rate when using the Pixel there? I mean, this is really depending on what your goal is. What you normally find is that for e-commerce, from website visitors to purchase, we're looking for a conversion rate of about 1% up to 5%. You know, there are outliers both sides. That's generally what we're looking for. With lead gen, it can be very dependent on the stage of the funnel and how much information people have to give up. Generally, when we run ads to get people to register for like a webinar or maybe an ebook download where we just ask for name and email address, we sometimes get like a 60% conversion rate. It depends on the audience, depending on your optimization goal, all sorts of things there. So I hope you find that all useful. Saying there's a lot that we've covered today. If you've got any more questions, just drop me a message, paul@adespresso.com, and I'll be happy to help. So thank you for everybody for joining me. I'd like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year there.